Unlike the previous episode, which had a little bit of a time jump between when Season 1 ended and when it began, this episode picks up immediately after the Season 1 finale. At the end of that episode, Star tossed Ludo through a portal, and in this episode we get to find out what happened to him after that. He ends up floating in space and eventually lands on a planet of some kind in a forest. He faces all kinds of hardship there, mostly in the form of the wildlife, consisting primarily of a large eagle and a giant spider. He's there for, I think it was upwards of 3 months-ish. Can't remember exactly, I should have written it down. And over the course of his time there, he learns first from observing the giant spider how to survive, and then eventually manages to tame the spider and use it to help him tame the eagle. He undergoes this transformation from the bumbling comedy villain to a truly competent survivalist. And it's such an interesting transformation to behold. You have to see it for yourself. Don't just take this review as a substitute for this episode. More so than most of my reviews, this review is not a substitute for this episode. It's a lot of visual storytelling, and it's very well handled for an 11-minute segment. The episode ends, and normally I wouldn't talk about this because it would be a spoiler, but this is relatively old at this point. The episode ends with Ludo finding a crude wand that seems to be made in part from the missing half of the star on Star's wand. The piece that we saw was missing in the Season 1 finale. And again in the Season 2 premiere, of course. How it got there, how it managed to arrange itself with these other pieces into a wand, we don't know. But Ludo has it now, and theoretically he could have some magical power now because of that. Though if he does end up having magical power because of that, I'm going to have some things to complain about. It's at this same point in time that he looks up over the horizon. He has now left the forest, and he sees that he's on Muni. He sees the palace. And it's implied that he's going to get into all kinds of trouble on Muni. I'm really excited to see that. I'm actually really compelled now to see Ludo's story. It was super interesting, and I expect it to continue to be super interesting. I thought this episode was significantly better than the previous one. I almost feel like, though, that this episode should have been our first impression of Season 2. Put your best foot forward and all that. When all you guys kept saying that this show was going to take on a more serious tone, I was wondering, would they have to replace Ludo as the villain? And then Duffee came along, and I expected that he would be the replacement for Ludo. But now it looks like they're doubling down on Ludo and turning him into a serious threat, and that they're going to succeed at it. And that's very interesting to me. I was just really impressed with this episode. I hope to see more of this Ludo story in the future, and I hope that Star and Marco can make me more interested in their story, because right now, I would rather watch Ludo's stuff than theirs, unfortunately. All that said, though, guys, if you have seen this episode, what did you think of it? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.